I've never just released a single.
Yeah.
It's always a part of a project, a specific project. When I did Sabashia Bekala Bazali, it was to commemorate June 16. So I do songs here and there, and then I did Nogunyamezela when I was commemorating Mamwini Mandela. And then I wrote a song when my mom passed, so there will be those reasons where I'm compelled to do a song, not an album. Being compelled to write an album is a huge ask, and it barely happens, because when it does, I know I will be in studio for the next 2 years. So it takes a while to write.
Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Baffoe. In this podcast, I speak to Africans from across a multitude of sectors, including business, art, culture, media, design, technology, advertising, and everything in between, delving into their journeys and reflecting on the lessons they have learned along the way. It's about gaining insight into why and how they do what they do. These conversations offer a treasure trove of takeaways on a wide range of topics, including craft, relationships, wellness, parenting, entrepreneurship, and much more. So my guest today is somebody, when we say somebody doesn't need an introduction, I think Simphiwe Dana is a person that doesn't need an introduction, but I will say singer, songwriter, and dare I say activist.
Yes. yes, I still am an activist.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
Good days, bad days, but sunny days. So.
You've taken time between your albums. The beginning was closer together. It was like 2 years, 3 years. Now you seem to be sitting at 5 years. What is is there a reason for that?
I don't think I necessarily have a specific reason. I write when I feel compelled to, when something pushes me, because it's a spiritual thing. I don't write because I'm under pressure to come out with a new album. And because I'm still comfortable, when it comes to my position in the industry, I don't feel pressure, and I hope I never have to write under duress. So yeah, as I grow older, I guess maybe things take more time.
Do you think there's still a place for albums?
Well, I see a lot of people releasing singles. I don't, honestly, to be quite honest with you, I don't know how that world works. I've never just released a single.
Yeah.
It's always a part of a project, a specific project. When I did, what did I call that song? Sabashia Bekala Bazali. It was to commemorate June 16. So I do songs here and there, and then I did Nogunyamezela when I was commemorating Mamwini Mandela. And then I wrote a song when my mom passed, so there will be those reasons where I'm compelled to do a song, not an album. Being compelled to write an album is a huge ask, and it barely happens, because when it does, I know I will be in studio for the next 2 years. So it takes a while to write.
From an album perspective, what is that? What is that initial spark like? Is it a moment?
It's a moment. Something happens. It's usually it's precipitated by something happening that shakes my my understanding of my world, or kind of an explosion. I can feel the explosion building up inside, and I need an outlet. I need to explode somewhere. I need to vomit somewhere. And that is one of the signs when I know that it's time to get back into studio.
If I'd met you, you grew up in what, Lusikisiki? No?
I grew up, let's just say that I grew up in the Bantustan,
Transkei.
in the Transkei,
Yeah.
because we did move around quite a
Okay.
bit. So I did stay in Butterworth, I stayed in Lusikisiki, I stayed in Flagstaff, I stayed in Tsolo, I stayed in Tata. But the two places where I stayed that have stayed with me is Tsolo and Butterworth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why were you moving around so much?
My mom first was a student nurse
Okay.
when I was quite young. And during those times, she could not stay. She didn't have space to stay with a child because she was staying in the hospital barracks,
Yeah.
whatever they're called. So I had to stay with my grandparents. And that was Butterworth, Mkakas, where I grew up. So
Okay.
my formative years were Butterworth and Tsolo.
If I ask you for a memory from that time, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
If I'm speaking of Butterworth, one of my favorite memories is us going down to the river, which was surrounded by a forest. We would go there to fetch water, but every chore came with fun. So we would first swim, we'd hunt birds, we'd have so much fun. So it would be like a 3-hour trip, whereas it was supposed to be an hour trip there and back. So those memories of feeling like the world around me is basically my playground and feeling safe to just run around. I don't think I have been that free. So like that stayed with me.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of other
many
reasons.
of us as we grow older, it's like sometimes we self-impose with these boundaries of how we must show up in the world.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever been that. Basically, it was my backyard, and we played a lot. Even when we went to fetch wood, we made sure that we went in groups and we played. Like we used to play Tsekwa, which is like you're it. Every time I tell this story, people don't believe me. In our river, we thought there were snakes. I don't know if there were snakes or tadpoles or what, but they were black and they were like maybe 10 centimeters long, right? So literally just a head and a tail. It looked like a snake, but it was just a head and a tail. And they loved playing you're it in the water. Like they were water snakes or water frogs, tadpoles, whatever they were. And we used to play with them. So you touch it and you run, and then it runs after you and it touches you. And these snakes understood this game. So those are one of my memorable moments growing up. And when I tell that story, people don't believe it. That I learned to understand nature from when I was very young, to revere it and to live in harmony with it as a result.
And so if I'd met you then and said what you want to be when you grow up, did you have any kind of idea in terms of?
I did.
This is the path I want to take.
I did. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't think it was possible. So if you had asked me, I would probably have mentioned a vet or something. Because when I was young, I used to love taking in stray animals and nursing them back to health. So I probably would have said something like that. It was my secret passion that I didn't feel like I wanted to protect it, because if someone were to say to me, I don't even try, it would crush me. So I protected this passion of mine for a really long time until my deputy principal, when I was in matric, my friends and I were just fooling around, matric, the valedictory ceremony. So we sang. And my deputy principal and his wife, the wife was the principal of the school. They were quite well traveled. I'm a village girl, right? And I've got this voice. I don't know, like it's just my passion. But I'm in the village. Like Joburg is a far-fetched dream at that point. And then I go to Mthatha, and then I meet this couple that I just thought was so posh and so educated, so distinguished. So after I sing, he comes to me and just, by the way, you have a nice voice. You could live off making music. And for the first time, I took that dream seriously when he said that, because I was like, this person has heard every imaginable musician perform, and he thinks I stand a chance. That's when I started working towards.
Without a vested interest as well. So it's not saying you have a beautiful
Yes.
voice. Come, let me.
No. Like you're just mentioning it. Oh, did you know? Yeah, like you've got a voice there. Just so that that guy saved me from making decisions based on poverty and desperation for survival.
But then what did you, didn't you study IT or something related?
So I think I'm saying that he saved me from that because my heart was not in it, right? But I still came from poverty. So, and I'm the firstborn at home. And if you know, in African families, like firstborns are deputy parents.
I'm firstborn son, so I have an older sister, but with family matters,
it's a son.
I was responsible after my father.
Yeah, so I was deputy parent to my siblings and even to my parents. I'm not sure where I was going with this point. I got lost.
But do you remember the first time we met? I still remember the first time you and I met.
2006?
Yes.
Yes.
I was running poetry shows there.
Yes.
And I remember you being there. I don't know how long you'd been in Joburg, but so I remember, I think you had braids or something. So I remember you kind of being there, and afterwards we all went to Tando, and then seeing you kind of find your place in the city. And then all of a sudden, the locks are growing. You're now Rasta at the greenhouse in Yeoville.
No, I never stayed at the Rasta house. Oh my God, no.
You didn't stay there, but
the culture.
The culture, and I'd seen you around there because at some stage I was also staying in Berea. But so I think where we were going and what I was asking was, for example, coming to Joburg to study. Was that because coming from where you come from, where the opportunities are not necessarily as abundant, was the coming to study a way of you getting into the city and then finding, it felt like you found your people and you found your voice?
The reason why I'm here is because you have played a very integral role in my career. And I hoped that you would remember, because when you mentioned 206, I remember very clearly, because that was the official beginning of my career. Do you know that when I got on that stage, I ended up on, what was that Friday night show with Mel Bala and Studio Mix?
Yeah.
That was the beginning of my career. When I literally bumped into 206, I had no idea that there were spaces like that. There were people like that in Joburg, and I had been looking for them. So I'll get back to your question, but I wanted to tell this story. So I had been in Joburg for a year by then, or close to a year. I was finishing my IT studies, And I had this friend of mine who liked to go out. She was like a party animal of note. And for me, she was a good person to help me get to know and navigate Joburg because she wanted to go everywhere. So I'd like, I would follow her like around everywhere and I can get to know all of these places and people. And that's how I met Lebu Matosa. That's how I met Oskido, etc., etc. Like I met a number of people through her. But anyway, so this one night, she's looking for a place to go and she can't find anything. And she's like, well, at least there's that poetry thing happening. At least I'll get a beer there. She did not know that she was taking me to the rest of my life.
That's amazing because I do remember. It's a story I also tell often. Because I've watched you kind of evolve from that point. But it's interesting, it's interesting hearing it from your perspective because there's the parts of the journey leading up to that, right? That I don't know about. And that's the purpose of experiences for me, conversations like this.
No, 206, I found home.
And you know how I found 206? I used to visit a friend of mine in Berea, and I was staying in Randburg with family. And every time I drove, like I'd be driving home, I'd end up passing this place. And there'd always be cars outside, particularly like Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we did our poetry thing on a Thursday, but Tuesdays, I think Tuesday used to be hip hop and drum and bass. And I drove past it a couple of times, and then one day, and I'm alone, and one day I just decided to stop and go in. So I used to party at 206 alone before I made friends, and I made friends who also used to go there. And that's how we ended up running our poetry session there, because I'd partied there enough that I got to know the bouncer, I got to know the owner. Then I was like, oh, I mean, that was the era, right? So we've got a little poetry thing. Do you mind if we use the venue? What are the steps from? So you did your IT studies, but now the music is starting to open up. But like you said, you're a deputy parent. So you're still carrying responsibility. And I can't imagine how difficult it must be to reconcile your desires and your dreams with the responsibility of family.
So what I did was, after that conversation with Mr. Mniki, I knew that I was going to pursue music. It was what I needed to hear to start planning. So I knew that plan A is music, but I'm going to need plan B because I'm a deputy parent. And it was just before Y2K, right? So I was guaranteed a job, guaranteed if I did IT. So I chose IT purely for that reason, that I've got a guaranteed job when I'm done. I'll be done in 2000. I'll be doing my last year in 2000. Guaranteed job, That's the only reason why I did that, so that I can take care of myself while I'm pursuing my true passion. And then when I was doing when I finished my second year, I strongly felt the push, that push I was talking about. The push said, go to Joburg and go now. If you go later, in fact, if you don't go now, you may never go. Something just said, if you don't go now, you'll never go. Like you're going to you're getting too comfortable. You're already comfortable. You've got a bursary that's paying you for everything, that's giving you a job. And these people, when you're done with schooling as well, they're going to give you a job. You'll be set. You'll never leave Kabech. And that's not your journey. It's time to leave now. So I did the most irresponsible thing. I forfeited the bursary because they wouldn't transfer it to Joburg. I called a cousin of mine and I was like, I need a place for just 2 weeks. I'm going to sort myself out. I know I'm going to be fine. Like something tells me it's all going to be okay. And I came to Joburg with no plan. I hadn't applied for my third year. I just told myself, I just have to be there and everything's going to make sense. That's one of the biggest risks I've ever taken in my life. And it worked out. Timing was perfect.
What do you, with hindsight, what are the steps? Like what fell into place? Like, I mean, those.
So what fell into place that now I'm in Joburg, right? First thing that happens is that for some reason I cannot get a hold of my cousin. And I end up staying those 2 weeks with a friend's brother, right? And then within those 2 weeks, I meet this friend I was telling you about, right? And I'm very shy, if you remember. I'm very shy, very like wallflower kind of girl. But she just keeps digging, like wanting to know more and more about me, you know? So I'm telling her, and I'm just like, oh, this girl is so forward. But, you know, she's insisting. So, you know me, I'm polite. So I keep answering her. And then she gets to find out about I'm looking for a place to stay. And she's like, come stay with me. I've got a 2-bedroom apartment and, you know, my father pays the rent. You can pay me whatever you want to pay me when you can. That's how my friendship with Khape started. And she's the one who brought me to my destiny. You know? And I say that because you have no idea what that moment at 206 did for me. I needed that validation, you know, from people that are well-traveled, well-experienced, who are in touch with their personhood, you know, who culturally, all of that. I needed to be that space because remember, I'm a village girl. So I'm very cultural, extremely cultural. Like the conversations are always, they never just light conversation. Everything is intense, you know? So when I bumped into 206, when we walked in there, first of all, I could not believe my eyes. But where have these people been? I've never met people like that in Joburg. Where have they been? I've been looking. I've literally met almost the entire Kwaito industry. Where have these people been? Like these people that are my people. So then I felt compelled to get on stage and perform, even though I was shaking. But I was like, I have to. Something says, get on that stage. So I get on stage and I'm so shy. So I get on stage and I close my eyes. I don't talk to anyone. I pick up the mic, close my eyes, and I sing my favorite song at that time, which was A Long Walk by Jill Scott. And then it's quiet as I'm singing. And I continue, and I'm getting worried. My eyes are still closed. I'm not looking, but I'm getting worried. Why is it so quiet? Why is no one saying anything? Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm sounding terrible, I'm sure. And I finished the song. So it's a cappella, no, like nothing, just me and my voice. And I finished the song and then I open my eyes and they're still quiet. I look around. The next thing, there's this uproar of applause and standing ovation. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I ended up on Studio Mix. And from then on, next thing I'm performing for Mandela, you know, and then I started writing my album because now I had found my tribe.
What's your writing process?
I do not have a process. I will wake up. I like to work very early in the morning. When I wake up, when it's nice and quiet, go to the studio and then I'll sit there until I get hungry, which is around lunchtime. Then I'll eat, I'll relax, and then I'll go again at night when it's quiet again, and maybe I'll push until 4 in the morning.
What's the basis of it? Is it melody? Is it words? Is kind of when you're thinking about
There's
a song?
no method to my madness. It can be a melody, it can be words. My only job is to just listen and try and understand what the message in whatever I'm hearing is and bring out that message. Melody is great. Actually, I prefer if I get a melody first. But sometimes I get the theme, the main theme of that song first, like the lyrics, maybe the first 2 lines. And then I have to finish up using my own intellect, like almost like the spiritual people are like, okay, we've done our part, we've given you the idea. Now use your own intellect to finish that idea.
When you really broke out onto the scene, and what's always interested me in terms of the industry is, which is an unfortunate thing. So, people be handpicked. So it's like the exceptions. Simphiwe Dana is an exception. Thandiswa Mazwai. Before like Zonke, the Liras, etc. And there's those who came before. So, what's the Dorothy Masuku, Miriam Makeba, etc. It feels very restrictive. It feels like one is, we're taking these individuals and putting them on so high a pedestal that it's hard to be human when you're on that pedestal. What was that experience like? I mean, I don't know if I'm 100% accurate, but from the kind of watching and just seeing how the industry positions people, where at some stage it's like, and even in creating competition, like creating competition and conflict, because it's saying that there's only enough space for a few people, a few artists of this like.
Okay, but the thing is this is always only said when it comes to women artists, by we're creating competition, unless I'm not understanding your question.
Well, I mean, even if it I think it is. Yeah, I think you're right in saying. Sorry, I think you're right in saying that it's only done with women artists, which further adds to why I see it as a problem. So what I'm asking is,
I think my point is that it's not based on facts.
Yeah, your thoughts and what it's like to be in the middle of it, with a different with a different understanding of what it actually is.
Okay, so I'm saying that no, I don't believe rather that anyone is pitting anyone against the other. I mean, there's been an instance here and there, like it's literally like no one even took notice of it except for the person it was directed to, kind of thing. So people will have beefs, right? It doesn't mean that it's manufactured by someone else. It just means that they met, they had an issue, same as you'll have AKA and Casper, like it doesn't mean that there's a Sandra Semfene, like a third hand in there manipulating the situation. Sometimes people have disagreements, but I don't think that there's someone trying to pit women against each other. What I do think is that we are not good at working with each other like the men are, and I don't know why that is. I know that me personally, I like to work alone, and then involve people afterwards, right? But just generally, I don't see as many collaborations amongst the women as I do amongst the men. And that's something that it doesn't bother me, but it has, it has come to my attention.
I think what I was also trying to get at is understanding. I mean, you're more of an introvert. I mean, I'm an introvert. And like you're saying, when you're coming up, you're a shy person. Uh, and having that kind of personality and then being thrust into this extremely public, public space with eyes on you, is understanding how you navigated and made sense of that. And I'll give you an example. Like when I worked for magazines, and I had a friend asking me, they asked me to do a talk. And when I was putting together the talk, eventually my talk was around being introverted in a public space. And so, for example, when I go to events, I navigate events a particular way. And I never realized until I started to think about it, where it may look like I've talked to lots of people, but all I've done is I moved from one person I know to another person I know. And they happen to be on different parts of the room, and other people come and speak to them. So if you've watched me, it'll look like I've gone and talked to a lot of people, but I tend to find, and I still do that. Like I found my system where it's like, I know Simphiwe. We have a relationship that exists beyond what our jobs are. So I see Simphiwe in the corner. I'm going to go stand and talk to Simphiwe. And I'm going to spend like an hour standing there. So anybody else who comes to talk to Simphiwe, well, at least the polite ones will say hi, as culturally we should be doing. And I've had people say, you're talking to so many people. And in my mind, I was talking to 3 people. So I found that's my system of creating safe spaces for myself in very public spaces. When I did poetry, I always had a mic stand, because for me, that was my little protection barrier between myself and the audience. And I mean, you went to poetry sessions, I'm talking 20 people. You have stood in front of more people. So what I'm asking, and I guess what I'm curious about is, because of how you are as a person, and what you consider your comfort zones, and then all of a sudden there's this explosion, there's this attention. How do you then make sense of yourself within that context?
It's weird. I grew up, singing. So it was not like something that I discovered later. I sang in most of the choirs at school. I sang in church. I particularly sang in church, actually, because sometimes I was 12 and in the church choir, and sometimes I would lead the church choir. Singing for me is a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual experience, almost like something takes over. That's why I close my eyes. Something else takes over. And as a result, I see music as something divine. When I'm on stage, I feel like I'm standing on holy ground, and I have to act accordingly myself. So when I'm on stage, I forget myself. I'm not there. But now, let me just be out there, like trying to mingle with the people. Gosh, that's the reason why I hardly ever go out. I get overwhelmed. I get extremely overwhelmed. And the thing is this, also nice. Apparently, I'm not approachable, but when you do approach me, I'm also nice. So I will give you all the time you need, and like to a point where I'm just like, I want to go, but I can't, because you are still having fun, and now I want to go, but I can't, because it's not polite to just say, okay, let's cut this now. I have to go, or I'm just feeling, weird being around people, like all the different energies. Some of us are sensitive to that. And we don't know that we are introverts because we are sensitive to people's energies. It becomes too much for us.
Has your approach changed as you've grown older?
I am better when it comes to being shy and not being able to speak, etc., etc. I'm totally much better. But on the inside, I'm still that. It's easy for me to crawl back into being that person, when I'm triggered. But I'm much more outgoing now as a person. But I'm getting more and more reclusive as time passes. I enjoy my own company a tad too much, more and more each day.
What do you do? What do you do as you're keeping your own company? I saw a clip very recently. One of these, like an Indian guru, and he said, if you're alone and you're feeling bored, then it means you're keeping bad company.
I never get bored. I never get bored of my own company. I never, ever do. And like I said, it's getting worse. As I grow older, it's getting worse. I mean, I can't... When last did I... Yeah, no, it's been a while. Like, I go to restaurants. I hardly ever go to night events, stuff like that. I literally usually go out because I have something to go out and do.
So what do you do with your time? What are the things that you enjoy doing?
Well, I'm in my head a lot. I'm an overthinker. That's one. I like my sci-fi movies. Like, leave me with my sci-fi movies. I like to read. I just like to be in my own head. Whatever it is I'm doing. I'm very good with my hands. Firstborn, remember? I had to fix everything when I was a kid, so... and I like revamping old furniture. That's one of the things that I absolutely love to do. I can literally fix almost anything. Whether I know how to or not, I figure it out. And all of this is because as a child, again, I'd be called, come fix the fridge, come fix the TV. The wardrobe has come off, like the door down to the wardrobe, come fix it. So all of that. So when you come to my house, I've got all the tools because I like using my hands.
I was at a market recently and I met a guy and he was selling perfumes. And it's like inspired by other scents, right? And he was like, no, I made these myself. And so I was asking him, how did you come to making perfume? And he says he was a pharmacist and he was retrenched. And was trying to figure out what to do and then just decided. I mean, as a pharmacist, it kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You deal with chemicals. And so he said he taught himself how to make fragrances and now he started a business and he sells fragrances. And when we're leaving, I said to my kids, like, that's the way to live life. Like, just spend your days, pick something, spend your days crafting something, building something, and then like on weekends, go and sell it in the market. I mean, like for me, that sounds like bliss. And my son, who is 17 going on 18, was just like,
no, that's not cool, Dad. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
No, I've been there. No, in fact, like mentioning aromatic oils and stuff, I've created my own signature, aromatic oil for diffusers.
Okay.
So literally, I can do anything I put my mind to doing with my hands. Maybe I should start selling them. That's an idea.
There's a business opportunity for you. I don't know, Dana fragrances or
Yeah,
something.
Dana aromatics.
There you go. You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. We delve into their journeys, the decisions they have taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the spirit takes us. Now let's get back into the conversation. You've raised your children amidst the instability of a career in music.
Extremely unstable.
How have you done it? With hindsight, obviously.
I literally have no idea. I won't lie. I'm a single parent. My kids are now at UCT, both of them. I take each day as it comes. Put one foot in front of the other. Always try to be a good role model. And when I can't, be open to criticism from the kids. Having kids is a lot of work. And you think that as they grow, it becomes better. Now they're becoming emotional beings, with autonomy. And, you're dealing with mental, their mental makeup now. And then obviously everything of theirs is more and more expensive, When they were young, you're worried about, oh my God, she must not fall in the pool. She must not put her hand in the fire. Where is she crawling off to? Like that kind of thing. Now, and you think to yourself that once that stage passes, it gets easier. The older they are, the bigger the problems. But I wouldn't exchange the love I've experienced having my two kids for anything.
I was telling somebody in a line at the market the other I think his daughter's about 7, 8. And the daughter was trying to show him, one of those little toys that are sided thing. And it's like a little basket thing you press and the ball pops out. And, the father's like, no, we'll get it where we're going next. And I said to him, listen, Chief, enjoy it, eh? Like, what you mean? I'm like, I have teenagers. Everything they want is expensive.
Very expensive. And I thought that it would be easier now. I remember when they were kids, I used to do this stupid thing because it's quite stupid. When they were small, I would buy them these brands like, expensive brands, clothes that they would grow out of in like 2 months, And now that they're older, I'm like, how about Pep, guys? Have you tried Pep? Because there's so much else that is so expensive.
And now they want those brands.
Now they want those brands. At that time, they didn't care for them. They were just babies.
How do you raise them kind of performing, traveling, doing all of those things?
I have a family unit.
Okay.
I have my sister. I had my sister, actually. My sister came to stay with me when she was 14.
Okay.
Sazi, my daughter, was a few months old when my sister came. So I've always had her around. I have friends who double as uncles, who are always there. I've created a family of my own that is part friends, part blood family. And my children have got relationships with these people of their own. So we are a family. We are a family unit. It works well enough.
Yeah, because I asked that because I think we all, especially when you move away from kind of where home is, because we take for granted what proximity does with family when you do things. So when my son was born, like my family was in Lesotho, my wife's family was in East London. My mother-in-law, who had been in Joburg, was on the other side of Joburg. So something as simple as, she needs to, when he was a baby, I'm at work, she needs to be able to take a shower. Just to get that moment to take a shower. We took a lot of that stuff for granted until we're in that situation. Then you realize kind of how much help you need, but also the benefit of proximity of family.
Yeah, when I had Zazie, I was on my own, literally. And I think I got postpartum depression as a result, because when I had Zazie, my entire world changed. I never owned, I didn't own my time anymore. She owned my time. When she said hack station, hack. So I would sleep when she sleeps. Basically whatever she wants, she gets. Didn't have to, I would have to hold her sometimes in my hands. Be so tired by the end of the day, and I'm just like, just yesterday I was free as a bird. Now my time is not my own anymore. And I had no one to help. It's nothing constant or consistent, rather.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was quite hard. But luckily, when my son came, I had a nanny. So then it became easier. But literally, I was in studio with Zazie when I was recording my first album. She was like 5 months when I was recording my first album. And I would have to go out and, breastfeed her and then run in again to record in studio. So it's we've got lots of stories.
What is their relationship with music and your music? Music in general, and then your music specifically.
Okay. As far as I know, I'm just their mother. I know that they brag out there. But literally, the minute I walk through those gates, I'm no longer Simphiwe Dana. I'm just mommy, So I get surprised at times when they tell me their stories about how they feel about my work. Because I'm like, whoa, okay. I didn't even know that you actually know my work. Because to me, you're just my child. And I imagine that to you, I'm just your mother until these stories come up. So my son is the one who's interested in music.
Okay.
Well, my daughter as well, but my son is the one who's got some real passion when it comes to it. He plays bass, he plays guitar, he writes his own music. He's part of a band now in Cape Town. And then he's studying fine art. So that's what I thought was his love, personally, art. Because, I used to buy him lots of Legos when he was young. He loved Legos. Every time I was like, okay, I can buy you something. What do you want? Legos. And then he would animate, what's called stop animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would do that. And he would create these 10-minute movies. And this is just a child. And people would be blown away, like people who are in the space. But did you do this? So I thought that would be his thing. But he's got both. He can use his hands to create, and he can also do music.
And I assume as a mother, you understand that he can build a life out of that. Because for a lot of, because of your kind of history, because a lot of parents won't necessarily understand that.
Well, I would say that I would have preferred that, they studied sciences. Something that is guaranteed, like a guaranteed job for life. Because as you said earlier, the ups and downs in the music industry, it's in the instability rather of the music industry. It means that you can have 5 gigs this month, then for the next 4 months, nothing. You're like wondering, hey, bana, what's happening? And it's not because you've fallen off or anything. It's just how it works. So it's unstable. And I do wish for my kids stability.
How do you manage that? I mean, you've been in the industry for, what is it now? You're coming on, what, 20
20
years?
years. It's my 20th year. I'm celebrating 20 years this year, Kojo.
So you're celebrating 20 years. What have those 20 years taught you about managing life? Like you're saying, I mean, we still unfortunately hear the stories of people passing away, actors, musicians, etc., passing away as paupers. You don't have to tell us all your secrets, but how have you been able to kind of just navigate that 5 gigs this month, no gigs next month?
The thing, that's a tough one, Kojo, because I don't believe any of these people should die paupers. And I'll speak specifically to the music space. One of the big reasons why artists die poor in South Africa is because we are not patriotic. We cannot expect an artist to have 2 jobs, any person, right? But okay, no, like this one is just a passion thing, but it must have a real job. You know, like when we don't see art as like a real job, or like all of these things start to come out. All of these biased opinions start to come out. It's a lack of patriotism that I feel was groomed into us, over time. When we speak of 1994, 1994, as Mandela said, there are many more hills to climb. Like 1994 was a hill that we climbed, but there were many more that we needed to climb. Like we did not deal with the issue of identity, culture, right? We just dealt with government structure, like self-governing. We did not deal with the damage caused to our psyches by oppression, subjugation, enslavement even. I was getting somewhere. I lost my point again.
So you're just talking about in terms of how we start to avoid or change the narrative around.
Oh yes. Okay. Coming to the identity thing, patriotism. We're talking about patriotism and the music industry. So I was saying that there is no need for a single musician to die poor, particularly if they wrote their own songs, because every time the music plays, they get paid. They've already done the work. They've already done the work, and they've put the work out there. So now the work is supposed to be, disseminated to everyone else.
Yeah.
And that is our media that is supposed to do that, specifically radio and TV. Obviously other platforms as well, but traditionally it was radio and TV. So now, like, my big issue has been for a really, really long time that, like, don't look at us as charity cases. Just give us our just deserves. If you play our music, we get paid. We get royalties. It's a different conversation in the acting space, because I think that they have it worse than us, in the acting space. But yeah, like, just play the music. We are not charity. And if you think of countries that are popular, and you think, what they use, and they may have been popular for different reasons back in the day, but to maintain the popularity, they use the arts and sports.
Yeah, soft power. I mean, it is a clearly defined space.
Yes. When I went to Mali, everywhere I went, West African music was playing. You come to South Africa, it's crickets. That, like when you walk into a hotel, American music, English music. When I went to the Arts and Culture building, that's when I was like, I get into the elevator and the music that's playing, who is this guy who plays the saxophone? I love him from back in the day.
John Coltrane.
No. He's a white guy, tall white guy with long hair. You know him, man. Anyways, like that music is playing in the elevator. I'm like, this is arts and culture.
The guy who used to play at events and stuff.
Kenny something. Is it
Kenny G.
Kenny G, yes.
Plays the clarinet. I
Is it a clarinet?
I think it's clarinet. I think that's his main instrument.
Yeah. I think he plays the saxophone as well. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm saying things like that. Now, when I went anywhere in Mali, I don't remember hearing one American songs. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't play American songs, obviously. But the point is that the people and the culture are like this, right? And the reason is because when it comes to identity, we still have a lot to work on, like the self-hate, like like that has us devalue who we are, always putting down the things that make us who we are. Like that thing that Steve Biko spoke of, like, infusing back life into the empty husk, that kind of thing, the conditioning that, that apartheid, the apartheid system, the conditioning by the apartheid system is still deeply ingrained in us when it comes to that, because we shouldn't be fighting like why there should be more local music being played in South Africa. We should not even be, arguing about that. So back to artists, dying purpose and where I see myself, I will not allow that to happen to me. I will not allow it to happen. It's always at the back of my mind. Because like we've done the thing of approaching government, like the white paper is still sitting somewhere, gathering dust because it keeps being sent back and not being approved. But I personally, I'm not gonna die a pauper. I refuse.
Yeah, because I saw, was it what Mzansi Golding in Economy on the creative industries. It was a document that I think it was Golden Economy or something. There was a document that I saw.
That was Paul Mashatile's thing when he was Minister of Arts and Culture.
I think I saw that like 10 years ago.
This white paper, this white paper has been doing the back and forth for that long. Sibongile Khumalo died still fighting for that white paper. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen, but something has to give. And the thing is this, even in our day, right? As much as Kwaito was popular, this and this and this and this and that, but American music was still, taking the bulk of airtime. Even in those days, now like we have Amapiano, which you would think would be blaring all over because it's the popular sound like right now, but that is still not the case. Like something has to give, and that something is not going to give if people don't want to come back to themselves.
On a different note, when you look back over 20 years, so when you look back over 20 years of your career, what's the feeling that you get in your chest?
Well, I'm not as innocent as I was when I first started. That's for sure. But I still hold on to a certain purity that I know once I feel it's lost, that also will mean that I have lost the ability to write music. So that part of me has stayed with me, and it's very childlike. And I saw this with Brahim Masekela as well. Brahim Masekela was very childlike. Like he had this, like, a child's kind of wonder at the world kind of outlook that I really loved about him. And I think I'm becoming that too. And I'm not sure if it stems from being a parentified child, where I didn't have a childhood, from a specific time. And now growing backwards to try and find that child. I don't know, but I'm wiser, definitely. But I'm less stiff than I was when I was a kid. When I came out with my first album, I'm less stiff now than then. It's almost like I've seen a lot of life, and many things that would bother me before. I'm just like, everything is everything. Kind of, I realized that some things are not worth my time because my time is precious. So yes, I've lost like a lot of innocence, like having seen quite a bit. Like, I mean, it's been 20 years, that's a long time of experiences. But that childlike wonderment, is that the word? Keeps growing more and more each day. And I don't know how to explain that.
At least, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to at least have that, because one of the things that has always fascinated me, particularly with artists that have been in space for a long time, is how do you kind of, when it feels like you've done it all, how do you still wake up and do? So
yeah,
it's finding, I guess it's finding whatever it is that's going to help you do that.
Personally, like I said, I've always felt I was here for a specific purpose. So it's that purpose that gets me out of bed. I'm still here because I still have work to do. When I'm done with that work, I'll either like retire and take care of my grandkids, or I'll go back to my ancestors. It's just as simple as that. And I know that I'm saying this from a place of privilege, and I'm going to explain why I'm saying a place of privilege. Because I've always known from when I was young. I've always known. I had no doubt. The passion was there. It was a spiritual thing from when I was young. I wanted to sing. I wanted to sing everywhere. And my mother would be so annoyed with me because she had a beautiful, beautiful voice. And I loved to sing, and I would sing, be passionate, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, can that noise stop?" So I already knew my path. It's almost like I came into the world knowing my path, just having to navigate how I'm going to get to the path and start my journey.
How have you dealt with grief? Loss of people, loss of relationships, loss of experiences, loss of innocence?
I've fallen apart in different ways. When my mom passed, I stopped talking. I stopped eating. I lived off coffee. And I couldn't cry. But give me a bottle of wine. And then the tears flow. I miss my mom. So I was escaping. I'm an escapist. When things get too much, withdraw into my cocoon. So I didn't want to think about it. till this day, I have not opened my mom's WhatsApps. I don't want to see her message. I can't. I feel like I will completely fall apart. I cannot afford to fall apart. So I have to find a way to escape that, so I can still be available to those that need me, my family, people around me. So I don't think it's a healthy way of dealing with grief, especially when it means you can only find happiness if you have a bottle of wine. Especially if it means that, otherwise every other time you just are not there, So I tend to bottle things up. And then when they come out, when they blow up, I basically follow through until I have the resolution that makes me feel like I've been heard, I've been listened to.
Yeah. My next question is a question that I have no answer for. Because when you're talking about bottling it up and the words that you used in terms of you can't afford to because of those dependent on you. And something that I've been thinking about a lot lately from a personal perspective is, at what stage do you do for you as opposed to those around you? Because it's not even a decision. It's a natural place to be, to go, I will do this because I have these people depending on me. Which is, in essence, it's like a shortcut, right? Because you're not having to deal with. And like I said, I've been having this internal debate. The first time I'm kind of verbalizing it other than in my journal, where it's like at some stage, it feels like something has to give. But how do I manage it so that when something gives, it's not huge?
It's quite a tough one, because if you don't find a way, as you said that, like, you don't have an answer, I don't necessarily have an answer either. I found out what happened to me in my mid-30s. I started rebelling. My subconscious was just like, no, it's enough now. I'm not taking care of anybody unless I want to, unless, I've got the means, like me running around, like trying to fix people's lives. I'm not doing that anymore. And I became extremely rebellious when it comes to that. No, I'll help if I can. If I can't, I'm not going to go out of my way. And I told family, I'm out, no more. And just like my character, like those days, was very self-involved, and I felt like I was aware, but I felt like I need this. I've never had this before. I need this to just put myself first for a change and my needs. So if you don't do it consciously, the subconscious will take over at some point.
Yeah.
And just rebel.
That's why I was saying I've been thinking about it, because I believe the universe sends you messages repeatedly. If you don't listen at some stage, the message is going to come in the biggest and most painful way possible.
Yeah. That's very true. That's why therapy is important. Gosh, I haven't seen my therapist in so long. But yeah, no, given how, our history, our background, our upbringing, our past experiences, we're carrying a lot of childhood trauma. And it makes us act out, and we don't know why we act out, and sometimes masses of people behave like the same way, destructive way. And this is why, because apartheid conditioning that dehumanized them to a level where they think like this.
So as we kind of wind down, we're 20 years. I won't even look too far. What does 21 years of Simphiwe Dana in music look like?
I feel like I'm standing at the precipice of something new. Something different. It's still gonna be me, but I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like everything is gonna be different from now. A time is ending and a new time is beginning. And I'm also looking forward to seeing what that's going to be like. But I know that there's a shift. I feel a shift inside of me.
Do you, because we talked in the beginning, it was just occurred to me, you're talking about kind of when you write, you like to wake up early, etc. Do you have a fixed practice, or is it in the moments when you feel compelled to?
No. Once I feel compelled when it comes to albums, then I'm there every day.
Okay.
Then I'm there every day until I'm done. So literally, I'll spend 20-hour days in studio until I'm done. So it's a lot of work for me.
And then outside of that, so when you're not working on a project, well, maybe I should ask, so are you spending 20 hours in the studio right now?
No.
Okay, so it means that we can't expect, we shouldn't hold our breath.
No. I've started working on new songs. But there's something that still needs to happen. I can feel it, right? And when it hits, you won't even have to, tell me to go to studio. You'll find me there already. I'll wake up and jump out of bed and go to studio. So I'm waiting for that something, but I'm writing, but I know that I'm not there yet. Something needs to happen, and it will happen, because I feel like this album that I'm working on now is going to be, like, people always say this artist, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to, I'm working so hard. I feel, because of how I feel, like myself on the inside, that obviously is going to translate to the work that I create. And I feel a shift inside of me, and I feel like the music will also follow that.
Which kind of makes sense, because your music has always felt very much you and your emotions and what you're going through, and what you're trying to make sense of.
Yes.
So it makes sense that you do need that internal go ahead, that internal shift for it to manifest on the outside. And so what else are you working on for, how else are you celebrating 20 years?
We're doing an exhibition. I worked with Dumi of Afro Boutique.
Okay.
That's the one who does my headpieces. We did a collaboration, myself, Dumi and Zanele Moholi. And we are planning an exhibition soon in Joburg. Maybe in Norway as well, as I'm going there like in a month or so. I also have my Moya album to release, which I'm hoping is this year, because we've just been embroiled in some legal issues. So there's that. Planning a show, 20th celebration show for the Eastern Cape. That's still in the works, and for Joburg, that's still in the works. But there's 20 years celebration on the 14th of June at the Playhouse in Durban. That's one. And then we have two shows, the 27th and the 28th of June at the Baxter Theatre in Cape Town.
Okay.
And tickets, you can find them on Pick and Pay, Pick and Pay, and on web tickets.
I actually have a question. Have you ever thought, or how much have you explored other forms? So, I mean, because we know you for music, but like you're talking about this exhibition, right? And Do Me with the hair pieces, Zanele Mohul. And like you said it, and like it made sense, right? It's like, yeah, it makes sense that you're doing that with them. But so, for example, the way you've looked on stage and how it felt like you've been very deliberate about your looks, right? Your hair. So your creative eye is for beyond just creating music. So when you're saying it, I was just curious, like, are there other art forms that you explore or you think of exploring?
Well, whatever will help with the music, like with brand management, whatever. I mean, I'm a graphic designer and web developer. I use that in how I dress, even the coloring, the layering in the music. I use that as well. But I also design my own stuff as well. Graphic designs. Visual projects as well. Like, when we did Moya, I designed it. Then I sent it to a designer to polish. So when it comes to my brand, the things that I needed, most of them, the things that I need for me, I can do myself.
Okay. But it still feels like the music is the kind of core.
No, music is...
I was just wondering, maybe all of a sudden... Maybe we'll get a furniture range. I mean, you talked about the aromatics.
Oh, no. Yes. Like that is something that we could
painting
do.
Or that sort of stuff. I was asking more in terms of that, in terms of one. No, I mean,
I write as well.
Expand and explore one's creativity.
Yes. No, I write as well. Like everything of mine is within the creative space. I write as well. I'm actually thinking of a coffee table book as we speak, with my writings, which are like more than 10, 15 years old. I just came across them the other day. I was going through my hard drives, looking for something, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot that I wrote this short story, or I wrote that. So I want to have a coffee book with the artworks from the exhibition in there. Something that I'm discussing with my funders, let's just put it like that. Then I'm taking Moya to Russia this year as well. And what else am I doing? Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that.
Cool. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Please leave a review and subscribe. Check out the show notes for links to the guest, the podcast, and myself. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.